Alright, on to the next box. So I found this plastic box. I could tell when I picked it up right away that it was empty, but I realized it was for universal 1, 2, 3 blocks. And when I first looked at it, I thought it was for a cheapo set. And then when I looked more closely, I realized it said Brown and Sharp here. And I realized that this is probably the box for those ultra precision Brown and Sharp 1, 2, 3 blocks that were, and actually still are, attached to that feed unit as standoffs. Here's another indicator. This is like probably one of the last ones. This one, I don't know how I missed it originally, but it's a Federal case. No need to make a Federal case out of it. Anyways, it's got this funky discoloration. And this is a Test Master, full jeweled, Providence, Rhode Island, 0.0001. Oh, so this is a tenth thousandths indicator. And it actually seems to be in really good mechanical shape. It's just got this ugly discoloration right here. This is the kind of thing that, you know, if I wanted to send this out to that, the name is escaping me at the moment, but the guy who is a real whiz with cleaning up and fixing these indicators, he could really turn this into a really pretty looking indicator. The thing is, though, these Federals, though, they don't tend to, you know, I think these old ones like this are actually pretty good indicators. But at some point in their history, they had some dark times. Yeah, it's sort of like when Harley Davidson was bought by AMF. I like that. Look at this case doubles as a case for a horizontal one or a vertical one. So, found this. This is a digital sound level meter. And sometimes I'm just curious about how loud something might be. It appears to be all there, and for all I know, it's, you know, still working. Not going to bother messing with it tonight, but that might be fun to do something with at some point. Like maybe if I was dealing with something that was making a lot of bearing noise, and then I want to kind of like to do a before and after of how loud the bearing noise was, or just as an example, trying to think of another example. Or maybe replacing an exhaust, you know, a muffler on a small engine or something like that. But anyways, have no idea what these sold for new. But I'll probably keep that if it works. One lowly Morse taper drill bit. Out of the whole place, I don't think I found hardly any. I think way back in the first time I went there on that first pick, I may have gotten a couple of boxes. First and second time trips, I think I brought back some boxes with drill bits in them, but I don't remember a lot of Morse taper ones. But this one somehow got lost in the shuffle, so I threw it in the pile. Found this old handle. Knew it was going to end up being thrown out, so I snagged it and threw it in the pile. It's marked 3-352 from the looks of it. And then it looks like it might be marked something on this side that I can't quite make out. Now, it's got a square hole here, so I think this might have either been for the Solberger drill press, or it may have been for the big huge rotary table that was on that drill press. I can't remember. I think the rotary table had a had an hexagonal or an octagon shaft on it, if I'm not mistaken. But I think the Solberger drill press might have had a square shaft on it up top. I can't quite remember. The color seems, well, that's kind of deceiving too, because it looks like this has been maybe painted. I see gray paint over what looks like green, over what looks like maybe red, or the red could have been a primer, I guess. I decided to hit this with the wire wheel because I was just really curious. It's funny how the eyes can play tricks on you. I would have sworn that was a 2 to the right of the 5, but clearly it's not. So this is just marked 3-35 with a dot at the beginning and at the end. Then on the back, well, that's not much of a road map either. It looks like it's just 2 letters to me. I think it's SE. And the top of the E didn't come out really well in the casting. That's actually in the casting, that's how they did that. So, it'd be a miracle if I ID that. And I found a few more electronic items. These are brand new in the package. Model 6303 Pomona Electronics single point 4-wire Kelvin probe set. So what we got in here is we've got a couple of probes, and each probe goes to a connector with double banana leads on it. They look like they might even have gold plating on them. And then on the back here it says unique design provides millivolt precision with 4-wire meters. So that's interesting. You know, it's funny. I don't know if you guys remember a while back I showed the those weird clips. That was a wiring harness that had BNC connectors on one end, and it had those weird clips on the other end, and they were marked high sense, low sense. I forgot what else, but I figured they had something to do with an LCR. I ended up finding something close to them, and then I listed them on eBay that way with an opening bid of $10, and within a day somebody bid on them. They were the one and only bidder, so they won them for $10. But I mean, that was just a complete chance I took on grabbing those and throwing them in a pile. So I'm sure they're happy. And then there's this set of leads here. That actually looks like a pretty nice test lead. See, it's got that really sharp point on it, so you can really get close to a component lead. And then some of these are downright hypodermic needle-ish. It's funny, some of those really sharp ones are arced. They have arc marks on the ends, so somebody may have at some point in their lives touched something they shouldn't have touched. They say 1200 volt max, so that's just going to be a little set of extra test leads that I may or may not ever find a use for. This is just a regulated DC converter for your car. One of these doohickeys that you can just plug into your outlet on your car, and then you can set the voltage from 1.5 to 12 volts. You can set the polarity, and then on this end they give you a whole variety of connectors. So this is basic, and also a 9 volt. So if you have something that runs off a 9 volt, you can snap this on where the battery would go, and you could literally run anything that runs off a 9 volt transistor battery off of your cigarette outlet. Almost down to the bottom of the box here. Another QO circuit breaker. Found a few of these before. I'll just add this to the pile. Square D QO breakers are what I have in all of my panels in the house. And then I found this handle, Metabo. And I remembered that way back on the first trip that I was there, he had sold to somebody a Metabo hammer drill. Looked brand new. Yeah, so apparently for whatever reason, when he sold that hammer drill, this handle wasn't in the box, and then it ended up rearing its head later. So again, a thing that I knew was going to go in the trash, so I figured I'd grab it because maybe I have something else that this will screw into and I can use it on. I mean, who knows? Maybe maybe I could even sell this on eBay. This Metabo stuff is so darn expensive. But this is the rage now. These Metabo tools. It's funny because up until a couple of years ago, I never even heard this name. And the last item in the goodie bin is another Craftsman doohickey. And when I first saw this, the first thing I thought this was I thought it was a tire pressure gauge, a digital one. And I was thinking, oh, I hate those things because, like, you know, the batteries always go bad, and the batteries end up costing. It's always those button batteries that are so damn expensive. But then I looked at it more closely and I realized, hey, it's not a tire pressure gauge at all. What it is it's a non-contact infrared thermometer. Now, I have one of these. It's kind of a pistol grip style. I've never seen one this small. So the way this works is this button right here actually turns on a laser, okay, like a little laser pointer, and that allows you to pinpoint where you're aiming this thing, and then you can read the temperature of whatever the heck it is that you're pointing at. So the idea is, if I want to know what the temperature of a bearing is while a motor's running, or if I want to see how hot a circuit breaker is in comparison to circuit breakers next to it in a load center, for instance, I could do all that with a doohickey like this without having to physically touch those items and either burn myself or shock myself. So if this works, I'll probably keep it because it's a handy little thing to have. I can't. My fear is that the batteries were left in there and that it's corroded as heck in there, because I wasn't able to get this door off. Oh, there we go. Oh, actually, they don't look too bad. Oh, yeah. Crustification on the bottoms of these batteries. So, the million-dollar question is, will this work? So I was curious whether or not this thing worked or not. Rated one of my cheapy junk flashlights for these AAA batteries. 1.5, 1.5, 1.6. Alright, so batteries are good. So I don't see any power switch on this thing, so I think what's supposed to happen is it's just supposed to work when you push the button. And nothing happens when I push this button. No laser output, no nothing. So let's do an autopsy. Alright, look like only 3 screws. I'm just curious if I see any scratch marks indicating that this had already been pried open by somebody. I do not see any such marks until I just put them in. Alright. This looks like it may have gotten moisture in it. I'm not positive. Yeah, moisture definitely got to this thing. Unfortunately, this little chip right here, right next to where the wires come in for the power, you can actually see the leads on the top there are all corroded. So I mean, that alone could be the whole problem, but just for the heck of it, I wanted to see whether or not the voltage was getting to the board, in case it was just a connection issue with the batteries that was stopping it from coming on. The corrosion I can see on these wire connections to the actual PC board could also be an issue. And I also probably want to, well, let me see if I can't touch up some of these solder connections. Well, I just figured out what's wrong with this stupid thing. So I just realized, looking real close, that this button on the side here, which is supposed to actuate it, there's no piece of metal in there. There's no kind of switch or anything. And there's a couple of spots on the board right there, right next to each other, which look like they might be contact points. So I think there's a piece of metal or something in here that's missing. Either that or the button itself has been removed. The plastic right next to there has got a pretty good melt mark on it. It almost looks to me like somebody was in there with a soldering iron. So that's kind of a deal breaker. And it ain't all of its problems. I bridged out that little switch area, and you can see that it's now on because it's actually the little laser pointer part's working. But the display is still dead. It's not displaying any temperature. That's probably because of all that corrosion is around almost every single one of the pins on that flat pack IC chip. So this thing's junk. Alright, well, that's going to wrap up this episode.